What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome to another FPL video. Today a little bit of a special one. It's not a preview, review or a stream. It's a double game week announcement. So we're going to talk about the news that's dropped and what we know so far. Obviously the kind of annoying thing with FPL content is it changes pretty quickly and things can be outdated. And I know a few people said probably don't make this video, wait for more news, but you could be waiting for ages. Plus I've got a bit of time today, so I thought I'd talk about the news that's been announced and also go through your questions and basically a quick update on what we know so far and kind of what we're still waiting for. So if we get further news, I'll discuss it on the streams, I'll discuss it on future videos, I'll make further videos, but for now, let's talk about what we know. So the big announcement that dropped earlier today when Man City announced one of their fixture changes, it is the Everton versus Man City game, which originally was supposed to go in game week 27, but because of Man City against the League Cup final, that won't be able to happen. So now that match has been put into game week 25. So we now know that double game week 25 will happen. And Man City and Everton will both play 2 games in that game week. So obviously if you get one of their players and they play in both games, they got the opportunity to score points twice rather than just the usual one. If you've not seen a double game week before, a lot of FPL managers look forward to this point every year. There will be bigger double game weeks to come as well. So we know for sure, obviously, Chelsea could still be rearranging this week, but it looks unlikely now because Brighton have got a replay in the FA Cup, so I don't think that's going to happen, but obviously more news could come on that. But in game week 25, Man City are going to play Arsenal at home, which was scheduled anyway, and now they're also going to play Everton away, and likewise Everton will obviously play Man City at home, and then they'll also play Wolves at home as well. So there's lots to consider here. Is triple captain viable? How many players do you need? What if you haven't got any? Should you panic? We're going to come onto all that at the end with your questions, but just before we go through that, I want to talk about what we know about blanks and double game weeks already outside of this double game week. So one of the things we know up until this point is there's going to be 5 teams who don't have any blank game weeks this season, at least not for fixture reschedules. Obviously, something major could happen, a game could be called off for whatever reason, and then it gets rescheduled. But as far as it goes with cup games and stuff, these 5 teams shouldn't have any blank fixtures. So that's Liverpool, obviously that's great. Most of us have got Salah, maybe a defender, and you could look to triple up. I think they, out of all these teams, are probably the ones to actually look at a double or triple up on. And obviously you're not going to have to worry about them not playing throughout the rest of the season. Obviously on the flip side, any of these players you have, yes, they don't blank, but they also don't have double game weeks as well. So you're not going to get a Mo Salah triple captain in a double game week. Not to say you can't score really highly in a single game week, of course, but that is something to consider before you go loading up on all these players. And obviously if you haven't got chips and wildcards and stuff, then perhaps you need a few more of these players in your team to navigate the blanks and stuff like that. So Liverpool, Bournemouth, who have had a pretty tricky fixture run recently after a really good start fixture-wise. Now that does still go on for a couple more weeks, but once the blanks start hitting, Bournemouth have actually got a really nice run into the end of the season. So Wilson and Fraser, players like that, have done well for most of the season. Could look at either holding them or bringing them in eventually if you haven't already got them. Leicester as well, another option. Obviously you've got the likes of Vardy there, perhaps Pereira. A lot of people looking at him in game week 27 when Leicester's fixtures turn, so he could be one to look at. He's done really well this season. And then Burnley and Huddersfield, I mean, probably not going to go for too many players from them right now. But obviously Barnes was a bit of a bandwagon a few weeks ago. I've got the likes of Schindler at Huddersfield, so especially as kind of bench players that you can just hold throughout kind of blanks and doubles, they might be worth looking at. But obviously Liverpool, Bournemouth, Leicester, the key ones there, Burnley and Huddersfield as well. So none of those teams will blank this season, or they shouldn't do at least. So after game week 27, game week 31 should be the next big blank. This is basically going to happen because teams will be through to the quarterfinals in the FA Cup. And if they're through to the quarterfinals, they can't also play these fixtures as well, so they'll be rearranged, probably into game week 32 from the looks of things, but obviously we haven't got that confirmed yet. So in game week 31, the games that are definitely on: West Ham versus Huddersfield, Bournemouth versus Newcastle, Burnley versus Leicester, and Fulham versus Liverpool. So obviously you've got the teams we just talked about who aren't going to blank, but obviously they also have to play a match as well. So those matches definitely on. So again, if you've not got wildcards and stuff like that, players on that list might be worth keeping. I think as a general rule, I wouldn't necessarily keep a player just because they don't blank, because at the end of the day it is just one game week. You still need to score points in the other game weeks as well, but it's worth considering, especially for the likes of bench players that you're maybe not going to play that often, but you can hold on to until these weeks and then put them in your starting 11. And then basically we're still waiting on a few fixtures. So Everton versus Chelsea, Spurs versus Palace, Wolves versus Arsenal, and Brighton versus Cardiff. So at the time of recording this video, Wolves and Brighton have got a replay. And then Chelsea, Spurs and Palace haven't played yet. So Chelsea have got Sheffield Wednesday, so you'd expect them to win that. By the time you're watching this video, they might have already played that game. But basically that puts them through to the 5th round. And then if they get through the 5th round, they'll blank. And so will their corresponding fixture. So if Chelsea beat Sheffield Wednesday and they get through the 5th round to the quarterfinals, then Chelsea versus Everton will be off. And Spurs versus Palace are playing each other. So whoever gets through that, if they then get through the next round, that match will be off and so forth. So we don't know for sure which ones are going to happen there. Obviously, we don't know what the draw is going to be after the 4th round happens. But we're still waiting on some teams for Game Week 31. So a few games on. And it does look like a couple of those fixtures are waiting on. There's potential there for them not to be blanks because the teams just don't get through. Like Wolves and Brighton did struggle a bit. So if there's lots of games on, that basically helps people that have already used their chips because obviously there's not so much organisation and planning needed for the fixtures because a lot of teams will play. So the FA Cup results so far have probably been kinder to those that didn't hold their chips. But if you've got your chips, you're still at a bit of an advantage, but maybe not as much as you could have been, depending on how the results went. And so Game Week 33 should be the other blank. This will be the FA Cup semi-finals. Now, I don't want to go too much into what matches we're still waiting on because some teams haven't even played their 4th round game yet or their replay, and they've still got to get through the 5th round and then the quarterfinals to even get to this point. But we already know that these games will be on. So Everton versus Arsenal, Bournemouth versus Burnley, Southampton versus Liverpool, and Huddersfield versus Leicester. So like Game Week 31, obviously you've got those teams that aren't going to blank. But Bournemouth have got a pretty good run, so Burnley in this game week and then a decent fixture in Game Week 31. So worth looking at those players. Obviously, it does take a bit of planning this time of the season. You will have to think about who's blanking, who's not, how many players you want in the double game weeks and stuff like that. But Game Week 31, especially for the likes of Liverpool and Bournemouth, looking pretty good. And even Leicester in 33 have got a game against Huddersfield. So their players probably not worth dismissing and definitely worth looking at bringing into your teams to navigate these blanks. Now on to probably the most interesting part, the questions that you asked. I put out a tweet on Twitter saying that I was making this video and what kind of questions did you have for the blanks and double game weeks given this announcement. Obviously a lot of it focuses around Game Week 25 because we have pretty much all the knowledge for that. Obviously we're still waiting on some news for the future game weeks. So are there any triple captain options in Game Week 25? So the interesting thing about this is it depends how you're going to use your chips and what chips you've got left. So if you've used wildcard and stuff already, and bench boost or anything like that, then and you've still got your triple captain, then you probably want to save it for a better double game week down the line. Hopefully that a player gets better fixtures than they got. The problem with Game Week 25 is Man City, you're just not sure who's going to play week in, week out. Obviously Aguero and Jesus looks like a bit of rotation there. Sané and Sterling will start most games, but there's always Mahrez lurking around as well. And obviously you're not going to triple captain a defender, I don't think. Maybe you are. I mean, you could do that. We've seen defenders get massive hauls in the past, but most of the time you're going to want to put it on an attacker. And the thing with Man City, for example, they play, depending on when their FA Cup game is scheduled, between the next 18 to 20 days, they play 5 times. So Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, Everton away, Chelsea at home, then the FA Cup 5th round. So they've got a lot of games to play and a big squad with high quality players that if they swap in 1 or 2 players, it doesn't tend to affect whether they're going to win the game or not. So they've definitely obviously got rotation risk, and we know that. So that kind of puts me off captaining a player in Game Week 25. But one of the chip plans that's kind of going around that seems quite popular, and I quite like the sound of it because I didn't do it last year this way, and I feel like having 2 different teams in double game weeks could be a really big push. So if you're going to free hit in Game Week 32, which should be a double game week, and obviously that'll let you get a brand new double game week team, and then outside of that for Game Weeks 31 and 33, you plan with your normal transfers to have a team out for that. And obviously we've seen already that Bournemouth, Liverpool and Leicester are good options there. Then you would do something like wildcard in Game Week 34 before the double game week in 35. You'll have almost as much knowledge as you're going to get. Obviously, things could happen in Game Week 34 to, injuries or whatever it might be. But you should be mostly okay. So you'd wildcard in 34, then bench boost in 35. But obviously, that doesn't leave a slot to use your triple captain. So you're then either using it in Game Week 25 for a Man City team that have got, to be fair, not the easiest fixtures. Arsenal at home and Everton away. I think the way that Arsenal are just defending at the moment, their defensive injuries, does mean that Man City should be able to get on the score sheet there. And you'd expect them to beat Everton as well. But it's just getting that player in that's going to play twice. Are you confident to put it on Sterling or Sané, whoever it might be? I'm considering Sané. That's who I've got in my team already. I think there's a chance that he plays both. Obviously, there's a risk that he doesn't. But I'm definitely looking at that. And I'm probably, right now, going for the free hit 32 strategy I just talked about, which means I won't have another double game week to use captainship in. Now, I could go for someone like Salah in a single game week, which is definitely an option. And given that Sané might not play twice, and an away game plus a home game against a top 6 side, who knows what's going to happen in either of those. I do, like I say, Man City will probably score in both those games. It just depends whether Sané is going to play. So, are there any triple captain options? I think it's Sané or Sterling for me. I think De Bruyne is too much of a rotation risk, even more than those two at the moment. Obviously, not long back from injury. Aguero and Jesus just worries me. And not captain and defender, and I'm not even sure it's worth talking about triple captain options when it comes to Everton. Obviously, they play Man City at home, not expecting much from there, and then Wolves at home is decent enough. But I just think who you're looking at. Richarlison, who's blanked four weeks in a row, did score in the FA Cup, but just not looking on it right now. Sigurdsson, they're just not really tempting options. So for me, Sterling and Sané are your options if you want to triple captain someone in game week 25, and it really depends on your chips. If you've used some of them already, then I think probably waiting for one of the other double game weeks would be the way to go. Who to bring in for double game week 25? So, this kind of ties in with what should you do if you own no one. Now, in the past, I was always someone that wanted to load up on double game week players, and I still do. But obviously, it all depends on your own squad. So, I think aiming for 6 double game week players in game week 25 is probably not the best play, because obviously, you don't know who's going to play for Man City. Everton just not looking very good at the moment. And also, if you bring in 6, they also blank in game week 27. So then you've got 6 players that aren't going to play who you need to ship back out. And I'm not sure the fixtures and the player quality and the guarantee they're going to play both games is there to warrant 6. So I think 3 to 4 is probably more viable. Obviously, it all depends on your own team. If you want to absolutely go for it and try and climb the ranks, then that's something you should definitely explore. But if you've got no one, then you're probably looking at the next couple of weeks bringing someone in. I do think Sané and Sterling are still the best options at Man City in attack. You could, if you've got a premium striker up front already, and it's not Aguero or Jesus, you could go for one of them. But I do think it's a risk. We'll have to wait and see what they do in game week 24 against Newcastle. Who plays? That might give us an idea of who's going to line up in the next game. And although they've got a lot of games, there's obviously nothing to say that the likes of Aguero, Sané, Sterling might not play 3 or 4 out of all 5, maybe even all 5. We just don't know, and that is the problem with this. So I would avoid bringing in too many. I think 3 to 4 is probably okay. And a Man City defender might not be the worst thing. They're getting a few clean sheets again recently at the back. So if you've got someone like Edison, obviously hold on to them. You could go for Laporte or someone like that. But the other thing to say about Sané is Mendy is obviously back as well. So if he comes back into the team, we still don't know what's going to happen there. I don't know if Sané's suddenly going to get dropped out, because he's done really well since he came in. They can play together, so that can happen. But I suppose the one overall thing when answering all these questions, we just don't know with Man City, and that's what makes them tough. So I would probably limit who I bring in. From Everton, I'm not sure if I didn't. Obviously, the draw for a double game week is quite big, and it sucks us in, and we get excited about it. But looking at bringing Everton players in, I wouldn't want to spend many transfers bringing them into my team. Bearing in mind, I don't think they would do very much against Man City. You'd have to get pretty lucky to get a clean sheet or any attacking returns. So then, apart from appearance points, you're really dropping down to just the game against Wolves, which is like a single game week. So if you own Richarlison, if you own Lucas Digne, players like that, I think you have to keep now. I mean, I was looking at maybe doing Richarlison to Jota, but I think now, just because of the double game week, I have to keep. And I think it's worth doing. I was thinking about keeping anyway because he had Huddersfield away. But with a double game week straight after, I have to keep. And if you've got Lucas Digne, Michael Keane, if you were stupid enough to bring him in like me, then I think you keep them for sure. But I'm not sure I'd bring in any Everton players right now. I'm not sure they're worth the transfers. Man City definitely, again, Sané, Sterling, defender. So yeah, 3 to 4 at most, and I think 3 to 4 if you already own a few. If you're looking at using transfers to bring him in, I'd maybe look at maybe 2 to 3 max. But obviously, it all depends on how you want to play these double game weeks. And then number 4 was, should you only focus on double game week players now? Now, this is something I get for sure, is tunnel vision. So you only focus on what's happening in the blanks, you only focus what's happening on doubles, and you forget all the players outside of that. In game week 25, for example, Spurs play Newcastle, Sun's back, that's a decent fixture. Chelsea play Huddersfield. Higuain's obviously there, and that could benefit Hazard as well as obviously himself. Man United play Leicester, Man United in great form, and Liverpool, Salah and co play West Ham away. So there's some really good fixtures there. And this was asked, should you only focus on double game week players, was asked by Ian, and he was saying he's looking at getting Rashford in. I still think Rashford in is a great transfer. Obviously, he gets one less week than Man City and Everton over the next 3 or 4. But he's in such good form, and so are Man United, that I still think he's worth bringing in. And if you're just looking at 2 or 3 Man City double game week players, then I don't think your focus should only be on double game weeks. Maybe as we get further into the season, game week 31, 32, 33 and 35 with the blanks and doubles, then I'd look at double game week players more, because you're going to get hopefully better fixtures, hopefully teams with more nailed on players, and just a bigger pool to choose from. But in game week 25 it is quite limited, and I want to get excited about it because I love double game weeks. It's just this one is maybe a bit of a damp squid, but we'll see. Man City can demolish teams when they want to, and Arsenal and Everton could be there for the picking. And then chip pan I kind of already spoke about. Mine is to go free hit 32 right now, wildcard 34, and then bench boost in 35. But I might change that. The way I did it last year was I used my free hit in a blank game week, and then I used my wildcard to get a double game week team for both the first one and the second one. And that lets me use triple captain and bench boost in both those double game weeks. So that could be a way to go. But I am tempted just to stick it on Sané and hope for the best. He's done so well for me recently. There's a chance that he plays both games. And when he plays, he gets points. So there is a little part of me that wants to do that. But Mendy is worrying me, and the fact that he might just not play twice like everyone else in that Man City team. So I feel like after answering those questions, I've basically said I don't know. And I guess I don't know. And I guess most of us don't know what's going to happen. It depends how risky you want to take it. If you're someone that wants to just absolutely go for the double game week players and just take the risk of getting up the ranks, if Aguero, Sané, Sterling all play twice, who knows what kind of points they could get. We'll see. My triple captainship has been rubbish the last 2, I think it's 3 seasons it's been in now. I've basically got no more than 9 points over a double game week, so that's obviously tripled to 27, which is awful considering players like I think Sanchez and Kane in double game weeks in the past have scored like nearly 30 points, tripled up to like 90ish. So yeah, I've done it poorly, so I don't know if I want to do it again in game week 25 and get another bad score, because it would be nice to nail the triple captainship this year. But anyway, I'll leave it there. I've waffled on enough. If there's anything you don't understand, any further questions you got, if you want to tell me how rubbish this was, how good it was, leave a comment below. If you did enjoy it, hit a like, always appreciated. And of course, subscribe if you're new around here. This video will be going out on Sunday afternoon before the FA Cup games are played, probably. And I will be streaming tonight at 9 o'clock. Obviously, if you watch this video after 9 o'clock on Sunday, then you can go back and watch the stream. It's available. Otherwise, good luck in Game Week 24. I think one of the things I would definitely try and do in Game Week 24 is save a transfer if you can, and then use it in Game Week 25 to get in the players you want, and to find out basically any injuries and stuff that have happened, and any further news. Like I said, double game weeks announced, Sun's back. There's a lot going on in FPL right now. Transfers are always precious at this time of the season, but don't just focus on double game weeks. I'll leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Cheers all.